Hello, I'm Neil Bradley, Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to our Back to Business series, Conversations with Our Nation's Leaders, where we're getting to know the freshman members of Congress, those men and women elected for the first time to serve in Washington, D.C. to help make our laws and govern our country. Today, I am greatly honored to be joined by the new member of Congress from Iowa's 4th Congressional District, Congressman Randy Feenstra. Congressman Feenstra was born and raised in Hull, Iowa. He served as the city administrator in the town that he grew up in. He became the Sioux County Commissioner and later an Iowa State Senator. Of course, in addition to his role serving the public, he was in private business, serving as head of sales for the Foreign Candy Company. And after a successful tenure there, he began teaching in the local university, business and economics, two topics certainly dear to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. I'm pleased to be joined for today's conversation by Mike Ralston, the president of the Iowa Association of Business and Industry. So let's get started. Congressman Feenstra, welcome.
Be with you, Neil. Great to be with you, Mike. And it's just a pleasure to have this open conversation with U.S. Chamber. And we have so many things in common and working collaboratively over the years. It's just exciting to be a part of this.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thanks for running and serving. And so I see you're in your office, so you're there in D.C. We're a couple months into this. It's like a new job, right? First couple months you're finding your way around. So how is the new job?
Yeah, well, exactly right. What you said, it's first you're just trying to find your way, and you're trying to find people that you can work with. I think that's in any job that a person has, is you just try to find how you can create successes. And successes are from those that you can work collaboratively with, those that you can trust and work with on both sides of the aisle. So that's been the real learning curve for myself. And the biggest concern about that is when you have COVID, it makes it a lot tougher because you're seeing people on Zoom meetings and you're not going out to lunch or things like that because everything is closed. So it makes it a little tougher to try to engage and start learning people when you don't see each other except via your computer. So it just adds a little bit of an obstacle, but it's going great.
Well, I mentioned your resume a little bit, not so much for the resume of the viewers, because I wanted to tee up a question to get started with, because you've been in private business, and we know in business that sales drive employment.
That's right.
You served in local government, county government, state government, and now federal government. And we know and we believe at the U.S. Chamber that policies at all of those levels can affect the ability to create jobs. And so you've kind of seen it from all of these perspectives. Rather than jumping into the policies, I want to start with, from your vantage point, holding all of those positions, what does a job mean to your community? What does it mean there in Hull, Iowa? What does it mean in the larger 4th Congressional District?
Yeah. Well, when you think of a job, jobs are the very backbone of what we're trying to do. When you think about growing an economy, it all is going around jobs. So for us, especially in the 4th District and Iowa, our unemployment is very low. We're at about 3.1%. So we actually are looking for people to fill our jobs, and that comes through a skilled workforce and so many other areas. But the job, in essence, is the substance or the growth of a community. The more jobs that you have, the more you can grow as a community, as a district, and as a state. So, that's what we are all about. We're passionate to have the opportunity to create jobs and then to fill those jobs also with the skilled workforce.
Well, I know over the course of your career, you've worked with a lot of folks. When you've been in government, you've worked with a lot of folks in the private sector. This is a great segue to bring in my friend Mike Ralston here, because I know you two have worked together for a long time about how you get that low unemployment rate in Iowa and also how you help businesses grow. So Mike, jump into the conversation. I want to hear you talk a little bit about and ask Randy about what he's doing and how you guys are working together on these issues of creating more jobs and filling the jobs that you have vacant.
Neil, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to be involved today. And boy, at ABI, we are grateful for the leadership of Congressman Randy Feenstra. He was a terrific state legislator, somebody that is a uniter and a collaborator. And Congressman, we're really grateful to get to work with you in your new role, and have always appreciated your focus on economics and jobs, and understanding that a good job is the backbone of a family and the backbone of a community. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for all your organization does for Iowa. You know, we teamed up together and we did a lot of great things. And now I look forward to teaming up with you and the U.S. Chamber and doing a lot more great things at the federal level.
Well, we appreciate it, and we appreciate our partners at the U.S. Chamber. No better organization, and really looking forward to, again, working with you in your new role.
Thank you.
Well, I'll return the compliments and the eagerness to work together. But today we're gonna try to get to know you, Congressman, a little bit better. So I got to ask you, what's your favorite book and why? And I hope you don't go to the syllabus from college, because I mean, it's we know you taught, you were a professor, but the non-academic books. What's your favorite?
Yeah, well, that's funny you say that, because there's a lot of academic books we could talk about. But it's interesting. I read a book this past year called Team of Rivals by Doris Goodwin Kearns. Team of Rivals is a book about Lincoln and how he worked together to create a cabinet of Seward, Bates, and Chase, who were in essence his opponents when he ran. And it was good for me to see how he embraced those that probably didn't always approve of what he was doing, and yet he understood that looking through their lenses that they could add to how they could make a better country. And that's what they did. And it's just amazing to read the book and see how it all played out in that time in the Civil War, and how they all had to work together to make a difference. So, just one of those books that just sticks in your head about how important it is to be collaborative and to work with one another, even when you don't always see things in the same view.
I love that book, and I'm a big Lincoln fan. And one of the things that struck me about it, and frankly, it struck me already in the few short months you've been in Congress, is doing those kind of things is a risk, right? In the political environment. It would have been easier for Lincoln to surround himself with people who just nod their head and agreed with it, right? But he didn't do that, and he brought people in he knew, as you described, we'd have to work with. You're doing a little bit of the same thing. So you've joined up with some caucuses there in the House, where I suspect you get together with some of your colleagues who you don't always agree with. Tell us why you're doing that.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm just thrilled. There's a couple caucuses. First of all, I joined the Problem Solvers Caucus that is 28 Republicans and 28 Democrats, that we can look and work together of what things that we do agree with, and how can we move the ball forward. We're not all going to agree with certain things, but what is there a consensus on, and how can we do that together? And then also I'm on the Main Street caucus. Main Street is again a diverse group of, this would be now Republicans that are working together to, again, create a better economy, create more jobs, figuring out what goes bump in the night when it comes to Main Street businesses. So these are all, to me, ways that, hey, I am better working with people that we can collaborate with and figure out ways and solutions than always fighting against and being obstructionists. That doesn't always work well. So I'm here to deliver results and try to help Iowa and help our country in just growing our economy.
Yeah, I described it as a risk, but maybe I was thinking about that wrong. Maybe it's a risk in Washington. But Mike, is that exactly what the people in Iowa and the business leaders in Iowa expect of their new congressman, someone who's willing to get across the aisle and do those kind of things and find solutions?
Well, you're right, Neil. I'll bet Iowa's pretty similar to a lot of other places. People here are kind of tired of gridlock, really want to see things get done. Congressman Feenstra is somebody who focuses on that too. He's always been a legislator that wants to solve problems, that wants to work out solutions and bring people together in doing so. And so people and I were grateful for that kind of approach. I think it's one of the key reasons Congressman Feenstra was a leader when he was in the state legislature, and certainly a reason why Iowans were proud to support him, because that's his approach. What can we get done? Let's not argue. Let's not fight. Let's focus on solving problems. And Congressman Feenstra is certainly an example of somebody who does just that.
So Congressman, when we've done these with your colleagues, we've told them only one book, but I feel like I may have pushed you in a direction away from those academics. So I'm going to give you two books. Go back in the academic category. What would you recommend should be on our syllabus?
Now, you know what? I always tell my kids that they need to read the book From Good to Great. We're all leaders, and I don't care what background or, you know, somebody that's quiet or whatever. We lead in some way, shape, or form. And the book From Good to Great, to me, is sort of that synopsis of how do I become a better citizen? How do I become a better leader in whatever organization or whatever facet I'm in? And to me, that's just one of those great icon books that we always like to talk about, but it's a good read for anybody.
That's a good addition. I'm glad I went back for a second.
Hey, Neil, may I jump in here on this discussion? Congressman, we had Jim Collins, the author of Good to Great, speak at our annual conference a couple of years ago, and you're right. He was so many times you get authors who can't talk the talk as well as write the word, but he was terrific and really focused on what you focus on: getting things done, bringing people together, building value in an organization. And so just wanted to support both your books. Are great ones. So
that's good. You bet. I encourage each person to read them.
So we've also been asking your colleagues, and we'll ask you, what's the best piece of advice? You know, thinking about not just in government, but in life. If you look back on your life, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received? And if someone was asking you for advice today, and I'm asking you for advice today, what's the best piece of advice you would give?
Yeah, well, I learned from early on. I think, you know, my dad understood it and talked to us about that we all come from different backgrounds. We all see things through different lenses, and my lens might be quite different than somebody else's lens. That being said, we are all in the U.S. and America and Iowa and from Hall. We're all in this together. We're all communal, and understanding that somebody might have differences than I might have. I gotta see that and understand it. But then it's also a step further and saying, all right, what can we do productively together to have a greater life, have a greater economy, all these things. And I think that goes a long way. And I've always told my students this, is that you have to understand that if we were all one way, life would be pretty boring. And so we have been created all differently with unique circumstances that create these lenses that we see through. And we have to be accepting of the other people's views, and then also understanding how we can work with those views and finding common ground and getting things done.
And I'm not going to let you off on the what that's advice you've received. I assume it's advice you give. Is that the same advice you'd give today?
It is. It is, even to my kids. You know, so often we hear the angst, and it's whether it be the media, whether it be social platforms and stuff like that, that we hear the bad of people. You know what? There's so much good in individuals, and that's what we got to look at. That's what we got to embrace. And when we embrace those things and look through their lenses and say, all right, I grew up in rural Iowa. I did not grow up in an urban center. So somebody in an urban center is going to see things quite differently than somebody in rural Iowa. So we have to look at it from those frames. Also, you know, I grew up with a family that my parents were both teachers. How about somebody that grew up quite differently, you know, whether it be in agriculture or you know, a different type of economic setting. You know, these are all things that lend a different view of the world to individuals. And that's, once we understand and can sort of fill the shoes of others, then we can start moving forward and looking at how we address the problems ahead of us.
So Congressman, you've mentioned your kids a few times. Spend a couple minutes, tell us about your family. How many kids? Where are they at in the stages of their life?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I love it. So I've been married 29 years, and I have 4 wonderful children. I have one in grad school, one is a senior at the university, one that's a freshman at the university, and then an 8th grade daughter. So I'll have 2 kids next year in PT school, physical therapy school, and then one that will obviously be a sophomore in college, and then a freshman in high school. So it's just been so much fun as a dad just to see them. They're very active in sports and activities, and to just be an encourager for them and be involved with them. I spent more time on the driveway rebounding for my kids, and that's just been our great connector, that we can talk back and forth when I'm rebounding for them.
And so who's the best basketball player in the family?
Me, of course. We have some really great games. We always play 2-on-2, and it gets pretty hot. We all love to compete pretty hard, but we have so much fun doing it.
Call your own fouls?
Yes, yeah, we do, and that creates another problem.
Neil, what he's not telling you is his kids are terrific athletes. I mean, college athletes in some cases, and so really good players. So I'm not sure he's telling the truth about who wins all the time.
I live through my own dreams. Eh?
See, this is why we have people like Mike on, because we got to make sure we hold you accountable.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The exaggeration of the driveway basketball game.
Well, I am so proud. We have 5 state championships in my house, high school state championships, and it's been a lot of fun to see my kids be successful.
That's incredible, and you can tell what a proud father you are, and that shows through. And this is why we do these sessions.
Sure,
we get to know the person a little bit better. I hate to bring you back to your job, but I want to do that for a second, because 2 years flies by fast.
Right.
I often wonder if back in the founding generation, if 2 years felt a lot longer, because today for a house term, man, it's a blink of an eye. And so I'd like you to think ahead 2 years from now. We're having a conversation. We're celebrating the start of your 2nd term in Congress. As you look back on your freshman term, what do you hope to be able to say, this is what I learned. This is what I accomplished. This is where I had an impact.
Yeah. So that's, by the way, a great question, because that's what we always should be looking forward to, is what do we want to accomplish? What is it that we look for in the next 2 years? I sit on wonderful committees, as you noted. I sit on the Agriculture Committee, Budget Committee, and then also on Science and Technology. And for me, there's a couple big backbone issues. Number one is broadband, rural broadband, especially in Iowa, making sure that we have that connectivity. It is, to me, when you think of the economy and growing, you have to have that ability today where you have broadband and you have those speeds where people can either stay at home or a business can transact very, very quickly. So for me, it's getting a significant broadband bill passed. And then in agriculture, we have so many wonderful producers, and our supply chain is critical to Iowa and the Midwest. So it is also working with that supply chain, making sure that our producers are successful and sustainable. And for us in Iowa, when we talk about the backbone, that is also the backbone for our communities. Is when our agricultural community is successful, then our hospitals, our schools, our small businesses, everybody is successful along with it. So for me, it's creating and working with that next farm bill that's coming up, and then also creating that environment that we can grow economically. And to me, that's that infrastructure of broadband.
It's a good reminder that there's a lot to get done.
Yeah, there is.
So, Mike, what's top of your mind? What are the questions that your members have for the congressman?
Well, thanks for the opportunity to talk about that, Neil. Congressman Feenstra knows this. The number one issue for ABI members now are the same. It's the same that it was when he was first elected to the Iowa General Assembly, and that is people. We need more people. We're always looking for people to bring to Iowa and live here and work here. But that's maybe a subject for another day. Congressman, our big thing is we want to make sure we're doing what you need us to be helpful to you. What can we do, if anything, that we're not doing now to help you be successful, to help you look back in 2 years, as Neil pointed out, and say, hey, this was a great term. We got a lot done. You're great about visiting our plants, that sort of thing. What else can we do?
Yeah, Mike and Neil, you know what? I love visiting the plants and seeing the manufacturing, all this stuff that's happening, and also visiting the chambers in each community. And like I told every chamber, that we are government together. We are all collectively in government. So as we started earlier, how do we create better policy? It's working collaboratively, working back and forth, and it's with the chamber saying, hey, we have this concern, and it's probably unique in different communities. Some communities need broadband. Some communities have water issues or transportation issues. But it's understanding those different issues in different communities, and then for myself to be engaged and figuring out a way or a solution that we can help that community or help my district or the state or whatever it might be. And I know Mike and the ABI Association in Iowa, the chamber, working collaboratively. We've done a lot of that, trying to solve solutions. And like you said, we have a workforce shortage in Iowa. So how do we change that? It's creating skilled workforce, creating apprenticeships, making sure kids that are in high school stay in Iowa because we have these great jobs for them. So it's always trying to figure out that next solution for each and every community that's in our state.
Well, Congressman, we know you have a super busy schedule and a lot of things on the list to get done, and you try to take advantage of both your time in Washington and obviously your time back home. So I want to make sure, though, that you get in any last thing that you're hoping the audience today, that those tuning in know about you and know about the work that you're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on. This is just wonderful. And the bottom line is, as I said earlier, is that we are government together, and we invest in government every day. How do we invest? We pay our income tax, we pay our property taxes, our sales tax, and stuff like that. So we have a direct investment, whether you're a business or an individual. And in a representative government, I represent business and industry in Congress. And I take that very seriously. And as we started out, that jobs are the backbone of the community. So we're trying to figure out ways to create more jobs, but then also finding people to occupy those positions so we can continue to grow as a state and as a nation. And I'm here. I'm very passionate about this topic. As you noted, I've taught management and business and economics, and it's in my wheelhouse of trying to get things done, working across the aisle to do that.
Well, Congressman, again, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for taking time out of a busy schedule. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you and the people of Iowa for sending us good people to Washington that we can work with. That is always appreciated. And as I think the audience has learned today, and something we've known going back even to the campaign, that Iowa's 4th district is represented by someone that has an open ear, is willing to listen, and clearly willing to sit down and do the hard work of addressing Iowa's problems and the nation's problems. So thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much.
To our audience, thank you for tuning in as well. If you've missed our other Back to Business series, we asked some of the same hard-hitting questions as we asked Congressman Feenstra today to both new Republicans and Democrats. Learn about their best pieces of advice, what jobs mean in their communities, whether a rural area or an urban area, and find out their favorite book. In the meantime, go to uschamber.com and stay in touch on all the latest updates out of Washington. Thanks so much for joining us today.